Hello, folks, and welcome to your first discussion post here in Chapter 1. As mentioned in my introductory video, I mentioned that I was going to give you a quick video intro of each of the discussion posts so that you, I at least want to give you an idea of how I would lay these out in terms of the level of detail and the notation, and I hope these are helpful to you as you go through the discussion posts. Before you make your first discussion post, if there's any questions about what I've done here, please let me know. And these videos will be available to you on the homepage in the course. If you look at the announcements, each week I will announce or leave you an announcement to describe the week's work, and within that announcement, these videos will be there. So please make sure you take a look at them before you start your discussion post. So your first discussion post is actually one that goes back to algebra, and we talk about composition of functions. Let me say first that as I described in the intro video, each of you will be given a calculus identification number. It's a 5-digit number. I just sort of annotate it here as A, B, C, D, and E because that's the way these the numbers associated with your calculus identification number are integral in what you do mathematically in the discussion post. So here you are given two functions, f of x and g of x. And what you're going to do here, you see that f of x is actually a second degree polynomial and g of x is a rational expression. And what you're going to do based on your calculus identification number, looks like you're going to substitute your a here. That will be the constant. Your b will be the coefficient of the linear term, and so then you'll have a numerical picture of f of x. Same thing here on the rational expression. The only thing you're going to do here is substitute whatever your value of c is here. You will have a constant. So the discussion post asks you to find f of g of d. Now d is going to be the d that comes from your calculus identification number. So f of g of d will give you a numerical value, as will g of f of d. And then it states very clearly that we first want you to determine f of g of x and g of f of x. So that means we want you to compose the functions first and then find the values of g of f of d and g of f of d respectively. So the way that I would start here, based on the instructions, I would start by finding f of g of x. And you know that in composition of functions, you're going to take f of x, and where you see x, you're going to substitute the entire function g of x. And I think everybody remembers that from algebra. If not, there's good discussion in your textbook, or you can let me know. We can review that. The one thing I note to you here is make sure you simplify f of g of x in terms of x. You'll want that simplified. And then from there, you can find f of g of d. So whatever your function f of g of x happens to be, after you do the composition of functions, you can simply substitute your value of d for x, and then you will find a numerical answer for f of g of d. So simplify, I just mentioned here, simplify, obviously, to get a numerical answer as your conclusion. And then once you have completed f of g of x, then you can go to g of f of x. So you'll start with g of x, and instead of g of x, you will substitute f of x for x. So wherever you see x here, here, and here, you'll be substituting f of x. Let me say right away, that looks like it'll be a very good review of your algebra to simplify that. So I hope everybody has fun there. Again, once you find g of f of x and you have simplified that in terms of x, you can then go back and substitute in that new composed function whatever your value of d is from your calculus identification number, and then you will obviously come out with a numerical answer. And please simplify everything until you get to that final numerical answer. Let me conclude this by saying here is the rubric, and this is the rubric for each of your discussion posts. As I noted to you in my intro email, this is very, very important, and this is a quarter of your grade, and that's what we expect in terms of your first discussion post, is your very best effort to solve, or I should say solve, but to get through the discussion post as requested by the instructions. And I think if you follow the template that I've laid out for you here and how it would be, or how I would suggest to you to lay these out, I think that would be a very good start, giving your best work. If there is an error, remember I noted in my intro message to you that within 24 hours of the time that you make your initial post, I will have had the opportunity to take a look at your work. And if there's anything there that needs to be readdressed, I will make those comments to you, and you'll have an opportunity to go back and clean that up as necessary. And so that's when we talk about, at least in my interpretation of this, when I see persistence here, what I want is if there is any work that needs to be redone, that you're going to redo that work and resubmit it to me. Finally here, we note in the syllabus that all of your discussion posts, where appropriate with mathematical notation, should use an equation editor. You may think that is harsh. Equation editors they've come a long way, and they're a lot easier to use than they were in the past. I think it's important that you know how to use those, especially as you go forward and you start doing your own any type of written work that needs to be passed in terms of reports or research or anything along those lines that require mathematical notation. I think this is a good place to cut your teeth in that respect. So we want to see it done neatly. We don't want anything scratched out in writing. We want to see you use an equation editor, and it should look very professional when you submit it to me. If you're having a hard time using the equation editor in the course in Canvas itself, you're welcome to do this in a Word document. Microsoft Word has got a very, very nice equation editor. We've actually got some instructions on how to use that in your content area, so consult that if necessary. But that will be the final component of your grading on the discussions. And as I said, I'm certainly hoping that everybody will do what is necessary to earn full credit on these discussion posts, and that they will be a good learning experience. I would also encourage you to look at the work that's been done by your classmates. You're certainly welcome to look at their work, certainly welcome to look at my comments. And as a reminder, you do not have access to the discussion board until you make your initial post. So a good solid effort, and then where necessary, you can redo any work and resubmit it to me for full credit. So once again, if there's any questions on this first discussion post, please let me know. Again, I think this is a good warm-up. It looks like there's a fair amount of difficulty in at least one of these situations where you're composing functions, and it'll be a good little warm-up, and hopefully we'll all get off on the right foot. So if any questions, let me know, and good luck, and have a great week.